Hi everyone, welcome back to my 2025 birding challenge where I'm trying to photograph 250 birds in the state of Massachusetts this year. So I have come to Petersham, Massachusetts, which is right in the center of the state of Massachusetts, which means that people in the Boston area like me think of it as Western Massachusetts. So it's about an hour and 15-minute drive for me. And this is a classic stakeout bird this morning that I'm looking for. A varied thrush has been coming to the feeders at this nice house that you can kind of see behind me there, the yellow house with kind of a red garage next to it there. They have a big feeder set up in the front yard, and they have been getting a varied thrush coming regularly for a few days now. So it's just a matter of standing in the street, looking into the feeders, which the homeowners have kindly agreed is fine to do, and wait for the varied thrush to show up. I'm excited about this one again because, like the Swainson's hawk last week, this would be a lifer for me. So it's a chance for me to pick up two lifers in the space of a week in my home state, which is something that really doesn't happen very often. So let's go see if we can wait around and get this varied thrush. About a half dozen birders were already looking for the varied thrush, and I learned that the bird tended to stop by the feeders every half hour or so. One thing I should have mentioned in my intro is that varied thrush is very much a western bird, with a normal range that does not come any farther east than western Montana. They do have a tendency to wander around in the winter, however, as this will be the 23rd confirmed record in Massachusetts since 1985. The feeders in front of the house were quite busy on this cold morning, so there was plenty to look at while I waited. This red-bellied woodpecker was looking quite handsome as it fed on the suet. There were plenty of nuthatches, chickadees, and titmice flying around as well. I had been hearing a hairy woodpecker vocalizing, and eventually I spotted it waiting patiently for a turn at the suet. Hairy woodpeckers are shyer and more difficult to photograph than their smaller cousin, the downy woodpecker. It occurred to me that this species was not yet on the year list, so I should really try to get some good unobstructed video. But just then there was some excitement, as some birders spotted the varied thrush in a large tree at the edge of the property. I hustled over and was able to get some video of the bird. As expected, it soon flew over to the feeder area where I was able to re-find it and get some better video. What a beauty. The bird was a much brighter shade of orange than I was expecting. Unfortunately, after just a few seconds, something flushed the birds and it was gone. I did get a good photo, however. I definitely wanted to get more looks at this bird, so I settled in to wait for it to return. In the meantime, the hairy woodpecker got a turn at the suet feeder, so I'll go ahead and add this one to the year list. Those are white-breasted nuthatches flitting around in the background. As you can see, the lighting this morning was excellent and the birds were really popping. Several blue jays were hopping around in the bushes and behaving quite aggressively towards the other birds. As I was filming this junco hopping around at close range, the varied thrush reappeared in a low shrub. Eventually it came out onto the snow and gave everyone a pretty good look. Then, just when it looked like it was going to remain hidden behind the snowbank, it decided to come back out into the open and give everyone another good look. Then a blue jay chased it off, and that was it for the second visit. Let's take one more look at this beautiful varied thrush hopping around on the snow. Okay, well that certainly went well. Only had to wait about 15 minutes for the varied thrush to show up the first time, got brief looks and some good footage. Then it got flushed and I decided to wait around for it to come back. So about 40 minutes later, it did come back and got good footage again. So as I said, that was a lifer for me. I feel really lucky to have gotten this lifer today, as well as the Swainton's Hawk lifer last week. So that's always a lot of fun to get the lifers in your home state. So that wraps it up from this location here, and I'm going to see if I can do some other birding today. I'm going to have to get on my phone and see if I can figure out what else I want to do today, but super successful so far. Before moving on to the next segment, some unfinished business from the previous video. I misidentified this peregrine falcon as a merlin. I was expecting to see a merlin since one had been recently reported from this exact spot, and expectation bias got the better of me. So peregrine goes on the year list, merlin comes off the year list, and there's no change to the total. Okay, hi again everyone. It's the day after I saw the varied thrush, and my plan for today is to look for two owl species that I would really like to get on the list for my 250 bird challenge. And that is long-eared owl and short-eared owl. So right now I'm at Plum Island, which is the spot I'm going to be looking for short-eared owl. Short-eared owls have been reported here regularly, normally coming out in the afternoon and flying around still in full daylight. It's been a lot of nice pictures posted, so I'd really like to get some photos of a short-eared owl here for the list. And as for the long-eared owl, I've actually already seen that today. They have a roost that is nearby to Plum Island, not actually at Plum Island. I'm not going to reveal the exact location because it's a sensitive species, but was able to go there and see a long-eared owl roosting in a tree. So let's go ahead and show the footage of the long-eared owl, and then we'll come back and we'll see how I'm able to do with the short-eared owls. As you can see, the long-eared owl was at eye level and showing pretty well. This is a much better look than I was able to get when one showed up on my home patch last year. Here's a fun birding fact for you. When Sandy Comito did his first ABA Big Year in 1987, he set a new record with 722 species, but he missed long-eared owl. That may well have factored into his decision to do a second Big Year in 1998, and that was the famous one depicted in the movie The Big Year. All right, so long-eared owl is on the list. That is a nice bird to have. Long-eared owls are not common at all. They're actually can be quite difficult to find. So I'm really happy that there was that known location where I could go find one. So next up is the short-eared owl, and what I'm going to do is go to the boardwalk at parking lot 2, if you know Plum Island at all. That is, I've been told, the best location to see them flying around. They like to kind of fly low over the dunes, and from that boardwalk you can see a lot of the dune area. So I'm going to head over there and see if I can find one. While I was on the beach at Plum Island, I also checked the ocean for razorbills, which is an alcid species I'm hoping to get on the list this year. I didn't see any razorbills, but I did see a few horned grebes, which is already on the year list. It was a beautiful winter afternoon, around 40 degrees Fahrenheit without much wind, and with a dramatic, partially cloudy sky. The dunes were looking very pretty with a partial covering of snow. As I was driving along the road to reach this boardwalk, a short-eared owl flew across the road in front of me, so I was feeling pretty optimistic. And sure enough, a few minutes later, in full daylight, a short-eared owl appeared a few hundred yards to the south. Over the course of an hour or so, the owl made several more passes at about the same distance, and then I got one closer pass. I'll show that last part of the video again in slow motion. I also took hundreds of photographs of the short-eared owls in flight. The autofocus on my Canon R7 did not perform particularly well, I have to say. The majority of the shots were out of focus, despite the viewfinder often indicating that the focus was locked onto the bird. However, some of the shots did come out well, so I'm not complaining. I think that this one is my favorite. I like the way the sun was shining through the feathers, creating a bright outline around the owl. Here are the camera settings for this shot, as a few people have asked me about that. I was in shutter priority mode, and I had selected a fast shutter speed of 1/1600th of a second to get sharp images of the owls in flight. I also had selected a small positive exposure compensation, which wasn't needed on this particular shot. The ISO and aperture were in auto mode, meaning that the camera selected them to get a proper exposure. This resulted in an ISO of 1600, which is a bit higher than is ideal for the Canon R7, but not too bad. So overall, I think the settings were pretty good. I should also mention that this image is pretty heavily cropped. Here's the uncropped image. Please feel free to give me feedback or suggestions on the camera settings in the comments. Okay, wow, that was a lot of fun photographing those short-eared owls. Did get a little video, and looking at the back of the camera, I think that what I have is a huge number of bad photos, and sprinkled in there occasionally is a few good photos. So you will have already seen what I was able to come up with there, and hopefully there's some decent shots, because they really are beautiful birds as they fly around. They have this sort of slow fluttering flight, and you can see their eyes looking forward as they fly. It's really a neat experience. If you get a chance to see some short-eared owls flying around, I suggest you take it. They really are neat-looking birds. So I'm going to wrap this episode up here with 2 successful owls on the list today, and I will see you in the next one.